Science, page 15, numbers 14 and 15. So we're going to use a football field, which is 100 years long, to model the number of years since Earth formed about 4,500,000,000 years ago. So it's helpful if we kind of just make a little tiny like diagram over here and say we'll put Earth's time at 0 and the field is at 0. And then the years for 100 yards is the whole field. And then we're going to put the whole time span of Earth, which is 4.5 billion years. Right, so we're going to use that as our beginning model. And then we're going to use this data and figure out how much each yard line on the football field would represent. So each yard line, that means how many would 1 yard line represent? So we're going to set up a ratio. So this is for number 14. So we're going to put the, okay, 4 billion, 500 million, there we go, years, divided by the 100 yards on the football field. And, you know, when you divide, you can just basically cross off 2 zeros and you're done. That's so easy. So we can see, and there are 6 zeros left and the 45. So 6 zeros makes a million. So it's going to be 45 million years. Right, so 45 million years will be represented by 1 yard line on a football field. So if we took the whole history of Earth and made it into a timeline on a football field, 1 yard would represent 45 million years. Now we're going to need that information when we do 15. Right, so 15 says the first modern humans appeared on Earth about 200,000 years ago. So could we use 1 foot to measure that number? So we want to keep in mind, right, 1 yard is 3 feet. And so we know it's 45 million years would be represented by 1 yard. Okay, well, we want to know about feet. That was a question asked us about feet. So let's change that to feet and do a little bit of math and see that 15 million years is represented by 1 foot on the football field. Well, they want to know, can we show 200,000 using a measurement of feet? Well, to try to figure out 15 million years is 1 foot, then what part of a foot would be 200,000 years? It's going to be a very small number. So I don't think that trying to represent 200,000 years of history, Earth's history on this model would make sense to measure it in feet. 1 foot being 15 million years. That difference is way too large. Now, that is what your math asks you to do, or that's what your science asks you to do with some math. However, I am curious, and I imagine you might be curious, well then, what would be the measurement for that 200,000 years, right? So let's break this down. I think we should probably use inches. So we're going to change 1 foot to inches in this ratio. So 15 million years instead of 1 foot, it's going to be 12 inches. And then for each inch, that means it is 1.25 million years. So 1,250,000 years is 1 inch on that football field. All right. So then let's divide this in half. So half of 1,250,000 is going to be 625,000 years, right? So for half an inch on that football field would represent 625,000 years. But humans, according to our problem, represent 200,000 years ago, right? That's when they showed up on Earth in Earth's history. So we need to get even smaller. So we're going to go to a 1/4 of an inch, right? 1/4 of an inch is half of half an inch. So let's divide 625,000 by half, and we get 312,000 years. Right, that's still not where we need to be. So we're going to go to 1/8 of an inch, and that's 156,000 years. So 200,000 years ago is going to be somewhere in between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch on that football field, right? So 200,000 is going to fit right in there on that timeline. So that means if the 400 4,500,000,000 years since Earth formed was modeled on a 100-yard football field, then humans' time on Earth would be just over an eighth of an inch on that field. Right? So you have the whole football field, and then how much of that would be represented? All right, so if we pull out a little tape measure, we can kind of actually see what it would look like. So here is a tape measure, right? And the little metal piece that you can see right there is about an eighth of an inch. So on a whole football field, right, humans would have been around about the amount of space that is there on that metal tip of the tape measure.